this month's PPOB meeting. Before we call roll, I want to recognize now the auditor, Allison Ball. Welcome to the committee. And young Will. Now, Will, I know you don't understand too much of the legislative process. If you have any questions, be sure to, you can ask the chairman anytime, and we'd be glad to help you if you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you,
So
Mr. Chair. Might have a few. Thank you.
But just kidding. Will served in the General Assembly for 8 years. Will, and when he came in, he was the youngest senator here, and hence the nickname Young Will. So, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're struggling a little bit with the quorum. We'll.
Which all matter for minutes. All matter for minutes.
Yeah. Okay. We. Okay, even though we don't have a quorum. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Senator Byrd. Senator Carroll.
Here.
Senator McDaniel. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Wilson.
Here.
Representative Bojanowski.
Here.
Representative Fleming.
Here.
Representative Graham.
Here.
Representative Petrie. Representative Pratt. Representative Tipton.
Here.
Allison Ball.
Here.
John Hicks.
Here.
Victor Maddox.
Will Schroeder is proxy.
Sharon Mattingly. Representative Hale. Senator Higdon.
Here.
Representative Johnson.
Here.
Okay, our first item on the agenda is teacher sick leave proposal update. Looks like I'm presenting that. Mr. Co-Chair, I'll turn the gavel over to you.
Yes, sir. Chairman Higdon, just for the official record, one more time, if you would introduce yourself for the record.
Senator Jimmy Higdon, co-chair of PPOB committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As you probably recall, I filed a bill last year, Senate Bill 128, a bill to establish reporting requirements for TRS sick leave program. It passed the Senate 35-0 last year, but did not pass the full General Assembly due to time constraints. I presented that same bill back in December with the intentions of filing the same bill in 2024. However, after spending some time thinking about discussions that have taken place in PPOB over the last 2 years, I decided to make some adjustments that, in my opinion, are true to the original intent of sick leave program. Some background, I believe, is necessary to discuss the changes included in the bill. As many of you know, school districts are required by state law to provide at least 10 days of sick leave to each teacher annually and administrators. While all school districts are required to provide 10 days, it is a floor, and some provide a higher amount. Those 6 days at the option of the school districts, which all have done, can be compensated to a retiring teacher at 30% of their value, and then be included in the final salary of their retirement benefit. TRS then bills the state for the retirement cost for the sick leave program. As we have examined this program, we found three things in recent years that this bill will discuss. Number one, the cost of the sick leave program to the state more than double the amount historically reported. For years, the sick leave program reportedly cost $40 million annually, with a liability of around $380 million. In recent years, through the work of this committee, lawmakers received confirmation from the TRS actuary that the liability for the sick day program was around $800 million, more than double what was previously reported to the legislature. We have, in part, addressed some of the cost of paying off the original $380 million in cost that was included in last year's budget. I've also requested, as well as others have, requested the General Assembly pay off the remaining sick day liability in this year's budget, which would be about $538 million. Number two, other forms of leave are being included in sick leave totals based upon district policies, along with sick day accruals in some districts above 10 days. While state law explicitly states that personal or emergency days shall not be treated as having effect on sick leave provisions in KRS 161.155, these type of leave balances, as well as other types, are being rolled into sick leave, thus increasing state cost to the retirement system. Number three, there's no annual reporting mechanism for the sick leave program to ensure costs of the program can be counted by future policymakers. Currently, TRS does not receive annual reporting of sick days like they do other member statistics. Given that the liability of sick leave program tops $8 million, and there are dedicated assumptions for the sick leave program, which, by the way, have been adjusted in recent years to account for a growing cost, I believe annual sick leave reporting will only help to ensure we are setting aside sufficient funds to TRS. So what does this bill do? First, a proposal like Senate Bill 128 from last year includes annual reporting requirements by school districts on the levels of sick leave accrued and requirements for the TRS actuary to outline the sick leave program cost in the annual valuation. Second, the new language addresses how much sick leave accruals in future years can be added for purposes of payment and inclusion in a member's high 3 or high 5. Let me explain. The bill is not retroactive. It means that any sick leave you have accrued as of June 30, 2024, to be subject to payments and inclusion in the member's high 5 does not change. So whatever you have on June the 30th, what you've accrued in the past, this bill has no effect on it. The bill does not impact sick leave accruals or what is included in sick leave for purposes of leave a member can use while working. This also doesn't change. Again, nothing changes up until June 30th of this year. Anything after that. So what changes and what does change is how much additional sick leave earned in future years can be subject to payment and inclusion in a member's high 3 or high 5. That will be limited to sick leave only. No annual leave, no personal days, no other forms of leave earned in the future, and it will be a maximum of 10 additional sick days each year. So if I have 250 days as of June the 30th, 2024, I can add an additional 10 sick days for payout in retirement purposes for inclusion in a member's high 3 or high 5. Also including the provision to allow school districts to purchase service credit at their own cost for days above the 10-day threshold. And Mr. Chairman, I do have a copy of the bill coming for all the members. Be glad to entertain any questions. Basically what it does, it just says that what you have on June the 30th is what you have. But going forward, you can only count 10 sick days toward your retirement credit. And you can't roll personal days over or leave days or any other type of days You can't roll those over, but you can accumulate those and use them as service credit when you retire. And most of you understand service credit probably better than I do. So, Mr. Chairman, if no questions, I'll be glad to entertain questions.
We do have a couple of questions. Representative Tipton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Higdon, for your presentation. I do have one question about the going forward. Most teachers are on 9.25 months employment. However, there are some teachers, like agriculture teachers, have 12 months employment. You have some of your administrators who are 12-month employment. Is there any provision in there for additional sick days allowed for those situations?
It's my understanding that's covered in another statute that says they can accumulate up to 60 days of annual leave if they have one of those positions. This does not affect that.
Representative Bojanowski?
Yes, just a comment. I think when I first learned that you could roll sick days over into your last year of salary, it was kind of surprising. And, maybe not in a bad way, as I'm a teacher and I'll be able to do it. But my comment is, and my only concern is, there are many years where I don't take a personal day. And I may not have emergency leave, and it's much easier to go to work kind of sick than to plan out for a sick day. So my only concern is that in this time of dire need of having teachers in the building and a shortage of substitutes, I'm concerned that this might impact classroom instruction. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I definitely do not, this was not meant negatively toward classroom teachers. And a provision that, right now you can't accumulate. In my understanding, the sick leave, the personal days and emergency days, you have to use those or roll them over into sick leave. Under this bill, you would be able to keep those days and roll them over for service credit. So they will get credit for those days. They do have a value, but as far as the sick days, the original intent of sick days, and I think everybody would agree, the original intent for sick days is the 10 sick days, and for teachers and administrators to be compensated for them if they don't use them. That was really a very important part of this, is to keep the teachers in the classroom instead of them using their 10 days every year, and to compensate them for that. This doesn't change any of that. It just getting back to a pure, interpretation of what a sick day is. And again, I don't want to take anything away from classroom teachers, but we have some issues in the future. Right now, we started out back in 2016. That when we started paying our sick leave liability down, we were paying $500 million a year. That seemed like a lot of money at the time. This year we're going to pay $630 million and change. 2017, it tops $1 billion. Our payment in 2017 is 1.2 billion, and in 2030. Our payment, the ARC for teachers' retirement, it tops $2 billion in each year, and I just like I said, this is not going to change that trajectory much, but if I know that issue is there, and I just wanted to address it. If the General Assembly is willing to do so, I think it helps. That curve might decrease it just a little bit, but $2 billion in each year, that wagon is getting pretty hard to pull, and I just want to make sure that we're doing the things we need to do in this committee to try to make that wagon just a little bit lighter.
Senator Wilson, you have a question or comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your presentation. So if I understand this correctly, a teacher that works 27 years and carries their sick leave over and doesn't use it, they should have 270 days at the end of 27 years.
That's correct.
Okay, do we have instances where they have more than that?
Well, and you know, TRS has answered all my questions on this when I ask. I asked for all the years and the highest number of sick days paid out in any one year. 2017-18 school year, 16 people had over 300 days, and the highest number taken that year, one person received 591 sick days toward their retirement. The surprising thing, though, they didn't work 59 years. The surprising thing, they accumulated that many over 25 years.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I will have you all a copy of the bill before we leave today. My apology for not asking staff to do that.
Representative Graham?
And I'd like to see the bill and look at it. My only concern is that we've changed the way in which the retirement system is for those who have come in the last few years. And for those who have worked and come to work every day, they've earned those days. And then for us to move away from that, which will help those who are still in the education profession, I just think we have to be careful on the approach that we're taking, because we need good teachers. And the only way that we can keep those good teachers is that they feel like that we, when I say we, the General Assembly, supports particularly public education and our educators all across the Commonwealth. And by doing this, we're saying to them, I think, as a former educator, that we are not supporting those teachers who have advocated on behalf of their students and have stayed in the classroom for longer than even the 27 years, but have been committed towards coming to school every day, even when they may have been ill, and they still thought about the students first before they thought about themselves. My concern is that we will lose a lot of people who would normally stay within the education field or in the classroom particularly, good educators who will feel like that their value is not taken very strongly. And so I'm concerned about that.
And I understand your concern, and we wanted to make sure that every educator in the state of Kentucky is treated the same, that, you know, the original intent of the bill, our sick days, was 10 days. And that's what most get, not all. There are some school districts that give more than 10 days. So I wanted to make sure that the educators in Casey County receive the same compensation or the same ability to accumulate days as Jefferson County, and that every classroom teacher had the same ability to accumulate days as administrators did, that everybody's on a level playing field. And again, the original 10 of sick days was those 10 days, and over the years it's kind of allowed some other days to be included in that. And like I said, with looking out into the future with this unfunded liability, our ADEC payments, our ARC payments, approaching $2 billion in 2030. You know, it is a concern.
So, Mr. Chair, you said that we will get the bill sometime today or tomorrow?
I'll have it for you. Brad went to print those. We have a couple more bills to present, and by the time, you know, here shortly, you'll have a copy of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Representative Graham. Senator Mills, question or comment?
Yeah, Senator Higdon, behind the column over here. I'm sitting here scratching my head, and you may have just answered my question partially, but how does a KTRS employee get 590 sick days working 27 years,
It was 25 years.
25 years.
25.
Okay. How does that happen?
Well, you know, someone would imagine that that person, as they start out in education, they were accumulating 10 days. So apparently somewhere along their career, they were able to, that if you divide that 591 days divide 25 or divide that by 25, that's about 20 days, over 20 days a year. It's close to 25 days a year. It is 25 a year. So anyway, that's make sure I'm doing the math right. Close to 600 days in 25 years. So it'd be 20 plus days, 23, 24 days a year that they were accumulating. Like I said, they didn't accumulate a lot of that's if they accumulated the same every year. So I can't answer that. I can only tell you that a person retired in the 2017-2018 school year with 591 sick days after 25 years of service. I think that actually it was 25.2 years of service.
Thank you.
And for the record, Senator Higdon, that's 23.6 days. I did the math on my calculator.
Okay, thank you. I got pretty close.
You did. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Was there any way in which you could have asked the staff here or teachers' retirement how that could be put in place? Could it be that someone taught school during the course of the year, but also was taking on responsibility and a charge during those periods of time that the schools were out in the summer and in the spring?
You know, that's a good question, Representative Graham. I did ask the question, and we were going to discuss that sometime offline, and I haven't had that discussion.
I think we probably need to know why that has happened. There's got to be a reason as to why that particular individual that you talked about, or
I have some a little additional information. 2017-18, like I said, 66 employees or teachers or administrators, 66 retired with over 300 days. The highest one was 591. 18-19 school year, 39 retired with more than 300 days. The highest number that was taken that year was 541. 2019 school year of 1920, 33, and the highest was 495. 2021, 33, with the highest one 405 days. In 21-22, 45 individuals retired with over 300 days. The high number that year was 444. And then 22-23, 55 individuals retired with over 300 days, with the highest one being 453 days. I did ask for the 2023 school year. I have a printout from, that was 55 individuals. There's it gives the number of years they all worked, and some of them are, like one got 304 days after 25 years. One had 414 days after 40 years, and that one's self-explanatory. Anyway, I have a printout of all those if you'd like to see that. Each individual, how many days they received.
And I think we have the bill
Okay.
hot off the press coming to us now.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Please, Auditor Ball.
Thank you very much. Senator, I just want to ask a quick question on this, just to make sure I understand where the numbers are coming from. Do the districts provide the numbers to TRS, and they do all the verification process of those sick leave numbers, or does TRS verify those numbers?
Right now, the only time that TRS knows how many sick days a person will use toward retirement is when they retire. There's no reporting every year, and this bill would require annual reporting where we can have a good idea of what the sick day liability is. We have no idea right now how many sick days are out there. They can estimate it based on past our history, but it'd be in our business as you deal with actuaries in a pension system. We really do need to have accurate numbers. So,
which makes sense, just because you're trying to predict how much money you need to have. What I was just wondering if the numbers are accurate to begin with that we've gotten so far, and that may be outside the scope of what you're talking about right now, but just so those numbers sound a little bit unusual, and I just was wondering what the verification process is of those numbers.
We had a thing that we talked about for years, the green box dollars, and I think that was pretty accurate because that was based on teachers that had retired or administrators. And really, when we talked about that and we had that paid off, I thought that was all of it, and I made that comment one time. It's nice to have sick leave paid off. They said, "Oh no, you only paid off the teachers that had already retired. You still have a liability for active teachers." And that's what we're requesting in the budget this year, that $538 million to pay off the current teachers, a liability that's accumulated there. I understand that liability will continue to incur normal cost as we go forward, which is about 1.5% a year.
Thank you, Auditor Ball. Are there any other questions or comments? And I would take the moment just to remind both the board and anyone observing this meeting today that the purpose of us presenting bills today and in the coming days of the session is not to do an up or down vote on this bill for any kind of approval as it goes forward in the process, but simply to provide the board with information about these bills so that we can vet the bills, and see if there's any information we need to provide to the General Assembly as they consider bills going through the process. So, Senator Higdon, Chairman Higdon, thank you for the presentation, and I guess it's time for us to switch chairs. Is that
Mr.
right?
Chairman, thank you, and members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, I'll put you on hold for a second. We now have a quorum. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself for the record and your guest, and please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's DJ Johnson, State Representative, 13th District, Co-Chair of PPOB.
My name is Michael Board. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Legal Services for KPPA.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll start with House Bill 292. And so today I wanted to bring before you House Bill 292. And the purpose of House Bill 292 is primarily administrative. I might be able to say purely administrative, but I caution myself to say anything that's that absolute. But the purpose of House Bill 292 is to basically formalize the current working organizational structure pertaining to certain financial management actions we have within KPPA. Specifically, it'll place the position of Chief Financial Officer, which currently exists, at the same level as other director-level offices in KPPA. The CFO position was created in 2023, and the title per this piece of legislation will be Executive Director, Office of Financial Management. If the bill is passed, it will simply formalize an organization within KPP that already exists. It will clarify working relationships for future occupants of these affected positions. What this bill will not do, it will not create any new positions. It will not create any additional administrative activities. It will not create or authorize additional benefits for the CFO. Again, it simply acknowledges and formalizes how things are actually being done in the office today. In fact, any increases in benefits must be approved by the governor's office through a standard process already in place. In a nutshell, that's what House Bill 292 does. If there are any specific questions, either Mr. Board or I will be glad to answer them to the best of our abilities, primarily Mr. Board, and I appreciate your attention. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ward, do you have anything to add?
Simply that if you look at the bill in House Bill 292, there's also language there concerning the Office of Benefits in that bill. And
Is your microphone on?
I think it is.
Okay.
There we go. I'm sorry. There's language in the bill also about the Office of Benefits. And in working with Representative Johnson, I think we are going to seek to have that language regarding the Office of Benefits removed from the bill, either through a committee substitute, if that's what Representative Johnson chooses to do. We have just decided that's not something to pursue at this time. So for the members that are looking at that bill language, we hope to have that removed from that bill. That's
Yes. Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, just, I'm assuming this is so since it's already existing. This is something the Public Pensions Authority supports and agrees upon.
yes.
Thank you.
And in fact, just to go a little bit further than that, we've talked to the other systems, the KERS, CERS, and they're both on board with it as well.
Okay. If I may, no.
Go ahead.
Sure. I'm here today on behalf of David Eager, and he asked that I also here today thank the legislators for the proposed funding that is included in House Bill 1 and House Bill 6 that are out there. So he asked that I do that today while I'm here. So I'm doing that today on behalf of Mr. Eager.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, Mr. Chairman, you did a good job on that one. Move on to your next one, the bill request 1574.
Yes, sir. So the purpose of Bill Request 1574 is to hopefully resolve a situation that was brought to my attention by a constituent of mine. And I'm going to get fairly deep into the weeds, hopefully not so deep that we get lost, but deep enough that I can explain the situation here. So this is a gentleman who is a firefighter. He's a retired firefighter, hazardous duty position, obviously. And he wants to continue to serve his community. So what he has agreed to do and offered to do within our community is to work within the education system, become effectively a teacher's aide. I don't know the exact title of his position, but effectively a teacher's aide in the TRS system, in the education system. The challenge he has is that as a 20-year Tier 1 hazard of duty retiree from CERS, he's eligible to have health insurance benefits with his premiums fully paid by the system for he, his wife, and any dependents. His full-time employment at the school district also provides health insurance coverage, and in fact, it's through the same state health plan, but the premium in this situation, in this case, is not fully paid. So since he is in the same plan, he would rather keep his benefits that he has, that he's earned through 20 years as a firefighter, rather than use the school system's benefits, which don't provide the same benefits for the same price. So what we in effect have is a situation where a hazardous duty retiree wants to continue to serve his community in the education system, but to do so, he would have to pay a penalty, either to reduce his benefits, lose the benefits he has for his family, or pay a huge premium, additional premium, to keep those benefits. What this bill will do, and I have not filed the bill yet, obviously, but because I wanted to have conversations with others. But what this bill will do, very briefly, is allow him to maintain his benefits. And Brad, fix me if I get this wrong here, but it will the benefit premiums, the additional premiums, will be paid through the school board by KDE. Is that accurate, Brad? Clean it up if you want.
The reimbursement to the systems that is required would be paid by KDE because their policies in some districts are not allowing, they're making those individuals take coverage through the district.
So there is a history here that I will try not to get in too much detail, but the bottom line is we've had some legislation passed which resulted in the policies of KDE saying, and school boards saying that if an employee is going to come to the school board, they need to use their health benefits plan. And this is where the problem is for this individual and about 150 to 160 other individuals across the state. It just effectively penalizes him for wanting to continue to serve the community. So I can get into much more detail. Glad to answer any questions or nod towards Brad if I have to. But that's it in a nutshell.
Senator Carroll has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So help me relate this to other circumstances where a hazardous goes back and works for a county in a different position. With the teachers' retirement system, is it different in how the relationship between a hazardous duty retiree that comes to work for them than it would be, say, for a county or any other area in government if they went back to work?
Thank you for that question. I think the best way to put it is the issue is the method of payment and reimbursement for a pension, an individual pension. So under his current plan, he has full family benefits. If he were to go into the TRS plan, he would be covered for himself but not his family unless he paid the additional premiums. And so we're looking to allow this individual and the other 150 or so to keep the benefits that they've earned and also continue to teach.
Remind me for an SRO that
It's exempt. It's not
okay,
an
so
issue.
that one's separate.
This is just a school district issue.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would add to this that I've worked with KDE and the retirement systems. We've had conversations. We've been looking for solutions for this. And so what this does, I think it very narrowly identifies the issues we've got. Two hazardous individuals who are wanting to come back in would be in the TRS system while they already have their current pensions.
Representative Tipton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Johnson, I like getting in the weeds.
I was waiting for your question.
It sounds,
Whatever it is.
It sounds to me like this is really not so much a TRS issue. It's an issue of local school district policy on how they handle their employees and health insurance. Is there any difference whether or not that employee is a certified or classified employee in the school district, or will they all be treated the same under this proposal?
I will probably get confused with certified versus classified, so I will turn this over.
Certified is like a teacher who has a certificate. Classified would be a school bus driver, cafeteria worker, possibly a teacher's aide.
This is classified.
So it's classified. They're paying into the CERS system as well. Mm-hmm. But this is basically the health insurance provision. I don't want to get too confusing, but it sounds to me like this is just an issue where local school districts choose a certain plan on their employee in that specific school district could cause a problem.
That's correct. And to be fair to the local school systems and KDE, they have a responsibility to be concerned about additional costs. I would say that this is very narrow in scope, so we're not dealing with thousands and thousands of people. We're dealing with about 150 to 175 individuals. And I would say that the desire to have additional help, we know the critical shortages we have in education. We have several individuals that are wanting to come back and help in that circumstance. And if there should be any additional cost for KDE or the school systems, I think it'll be minimal. And it is possible through the way that the math works and the way the payment plans work, that this may actually cost less for the school system to have this person come in and maintain this. And we're still looking at that. So, it like you said, it's pretty deep into the weeds.
Mr. Chair,
We'll have more conversations.
just a brief follow-up.
Please.
This would apply to any hazardous duty retiree, whether they were in the CERS system, KERS system, or state police, in any of the hazardous duty
Correct.
retirees. Okay, thank you.
Budget Director Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Johnson, your goal is good here, no question about that. That individual has earned their benefits, 20 years as a firefighter. The Commonwealth has already, or the city and county, have already paid for that individual's benefits, right? Full family coverage for hazardous duty. We've done that for years. It's a good policy. The problem, as Representative Tipton says, right, it's about a school district having a requirement that an employee opt in to the health insurance benefits of that employer, which is the Kentucky Employees Health Plan, the Commonwealth's health plan. We're the biggest group. So I understand the problem. The solution here, though, is to pay twice for the same benefit. We've already paid for that hazardous duty retirees benefits for a family plan, and this proposal would have us pay again from the Department of Education's budget. That seems illogical. So I'm asking this question, and I'm ignorant of this, is a better approach to require the school districts to permit, in these isolated cases, an opt-out provision of their personnel policy? Meaning, I don't want to take your health care benefits because I've already got them through the same Kentucky Employee Health Plan. And so that would be the state telling the school district what to do. I understand that. But it prevents paying twice, which is what this proposal, and I don't blame you for trying on this one, because this individual ought to be able to do what you just said and not have to, write a check for his health benefits that he's already receiving. So it's just the workaround seems, while it may be necessary to avoid telling school districts what to do, it ends up we're getting more money than we need by doing this. So that's just a thought.
That's no question.
And you've actually nailed a little bit of the conundrum in trying to resolve this issue in the conversations we've had. And frankly, that's why this is a bill request at this point versus a bill, is because we're still looking. If there's somebody that has a smarter way to do this than what we've come up with, I am absolutely open to any suggestions. Bottom line is I want to take care of this person and also improve our education system. So I'm open to suggestions. We can have that conversation.
Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, so kind of 2 points, if that's okay. One
Please,
just came
yes.
up with here. So I'm a little confused why someone couldn't just opt out, because I actually have 2 insurance policies, one with JCPS and one with state, and I'm able to opt out of my JCPS policy and just keep the state policy. So I'd really like some information.
That's a great question, and I can probably answer it, but I'm not going to stumble through it. Brad, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask the subject matter expert to comment on how we got to this point, because it's not just one thing. It's a series of events over a couple of years.
So this is certainly an odd situation. I think it's come up maybe in about 10 constituent requests we've had over the years. So in 2008, when we did House Bill 1, which was a pension reform bill in the summer of 2008, that dealt with reemployment after retirement, no second accounts, but there were provisions that were put on employers who hired retirees. One of which was they had to still pay employer contributions. The second was that they had to reimburse the systems for the cost of health care not to exceed the single premium if that retiree continued to have coverage through the systems. Now, if they opted into the employer, there was no reimbursement. Over the course of time, we have given some exceptions to SROs, to your question, Senator Carroll, to some city police officers, university police officers, and so on. So what happened, that in and of itself doesn't seem to be an issue. So after 2008, when that bill passed, all health insurance costs for local districts for classified and certified are paid for through an appropriation to the Kentucky Department of Education. The Kentucky Department of Education, to my knowledge, we've had discussions with them, made a decision that they were not going to pay the reimbursements because it wasn't typical employee health insurance. There have been school districts who have created policies to say, but we will not hire you unless you take our health insurance. So you have a conundrum, if you will, of statute and policies at different levels. So certainly the exception can be made for the statutory side of it. The other side would be the retirement system gets less money every time that reimbursement is exempted. So his bill would continue to have the payment go to the systems. It's just who pays. Does that make sense?
Yes. If I could follow up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just briefly. So I did get a notification from someone from KDE that said that they estimate that this would cost around $700,000. And if that's the case, if it was that substantial of amount, would you request that it be added to the budget or some other way reimburse KDE?
That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention this. Talking about cost, I believe that estimate is based upon if we were talking about hazardous and non-hazardous. I think when we get the final numbers as far as the financial impact, if we can narrow that down to strictly hazardous, it's going to be a much smaller number. Like I said, I think currently it's about 150 to 175 individuals. And I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but there's a spread of how much it might cost per individual from $125 up to possibly $900 a month. Is that close, Brad?
If it's couple, family, or parent plus, it's cheaper because the reimbursement will be less than the amount. So there's some cases where it will be cheaper in that respect. Now, cost is still cost, though.
Correct. Somebody's going to have to pay that. But so short answer to your question, too late for that. But the short answer is when we get the actual numbers and we can actually focus that in on hazardous, which is all this bill addresses, I believe the number is going to be much smaller, and it should be something that can be absorbed.
Representative Graham, you
Yes,
got in right under the wire. I was ready to pull the trigger.
Well, I'm just saying, so what you're saying is that it's still a work in progress in terms of how this bill is going to come out. Representative Bojanowski took my question in terms of the cost that supposedly the KDE would have on it. So you've got time to work with those who are involved in terms of the KDE as well as those who are retired and have gone back or working in those kind of positions. So let's see how that works out in terms of working with them. I want to try to do the right thing for the right reasons in the right way. So I appreciate you bringing this to us, and as we proceed, that we can come to something that can be beneficial to both sides. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And now one last comment is this is predicated on the school systems hiring these individuals. If they think that financially it's a challenge that they can't accept, they have the option of not hiring the individual. But we have a crisis of needing educators of all types at all levels. So I'm hoping that when we get these numbers, we'll see that it's not a great problem. But again, as you've mentioned, and I've said a couple of times, this is an ongoing conversation, and I look forward to filing the bill fairly soon so we can get it through the process. But we'll make sure we've got it as right as we possibly can first.
Thank you, Representative Graham. Mr. Chairman, I see no further questions. Thank you for your presentation. And any other legislator that has a bill will have one more meeting that will be able to address pension bills. And encourage, if you have one, to please bring it. And so with that said, make note that we have a meeting that was less than 1 hour.
Was there one more thing?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
No, I thought we had another bill to go over.
I did too.
You thought so?
I did too.
Oh, you did too.
And that wouldn't be unusual. Thank you for having my back there. I appreciate that. It would not be unusual for me to overlook something. But like I said, we're getting out in less than an hour today. That's highly unusual. Motion to adjourn. So move.